Hello and welcome to Brilliance Today, where individuals let their brilliance shine through their stories, expertise and philosophy, because they're on a mission to make a difference and leave a legacy. Introducing Brenda Dempsey, publisher, speaker and TV presenter. Get ready to be inspired.
Hello and welcome to Brilliance Today. And I am thoroughly excited about this whole series of the voice of women, where great women have other great women behind them. And this is so true in all the women, 22 women who are in Voices of Women. And I have got an incredible voice today. It is the beautiful, the gorgeous Dr. Leslie Davis. How are you?
Oh. Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for agreeing to come and share some of your infinite wisdom with us around a voice of women. And to begin, let's find out exactly who you are, what you do, but more importantly, Dr. D, what drives you?
So I'm Dr. Leslie Davis. I am located in the St. Louis, Missouri area, but I am in Illinois in the US. And I'm a relationship therapist. I work with mostly women, college students and teens and couples that are struggling in their relationships. And they also seem to struggle with some symptoms of anxiety and depression. And so with me being a therapist, I get to treat their symptoms as well, not just give them advice on how to better their lives.
Wow.
So, but what drives me is, my personal experience and being able to overcome some of the challenges I've experienced in relationships and wanting others to not have to experience it the same way and get out of that toxic relationship sooner than later.
Absolutely. And do you know what? I wish I'd known you a number of years ago, because it would have maybe saved me a lot of pain and sorrow. But anyways, you said we have adversity for a reason, and it takes a very brave and courageous woman to face up to taking responsibility for that. Do you want to speak a little bit about how you found courage to take some responsibility for some of the things that happened in your life?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was interviewed by Brains magazine
yes.
for their podcast, and that was one of my first, maybe my first speaking engagement as Dr. Leslie. And I remember being asked a question about, why am I inspired to help women deal with their toxic relationships? And it was like, in that moment, I had to be real and authentic, and I'm always one that's never sugarcoated. So I had to tell my truth. I'm like, yes, I've been through that too. And I had never told anyone about that. So it wasn't until I was asked a question by a stranger that I had to open up and be authentic about my own experience and own that and own what I've been through and really come to terms with, I did the work, and I didn't recognize I did the work so I could help other people. And I like to tell all of the clients that I work with, the pain that we experience in the moment, it's not just about us. Like, it hurts, but we're getting through that pain so we can help someone else someday.
Well, do you know what? That is an absolute, what I call a gem of wisdom right there. We get through it so that we can help someone else. I actually find that quite emotional. That's really touched me. Because, as a seasoned anthologist, I've listened to so many stories, but no one said that before. And I love that. I talk about adversity and the lessons that you learn, and that's what you teach. So I say it in a different way, but the way you said it there really touched my soul so much. So thank you for sharing that. And, authenticity is something, I call it raw and real. Being from Scotland, I talk about being raw and real, but there's something even more about being raw and real, and that's about vulnerability. Tell me what you believe to be important about being vulnerable in your voice.
So I want to challenge that, because we are often told to be vulnerable. And a few years ago, I was working with a client, and she was saying, people are telling me I need to be more vulnerable. And when she said that word over and over, it hit me in a place I'm like, that doesn't sound good. Like, we're told to be vulnerable and we're told to open up. And so I looked up the definition of being vulnerable, and it means to be open to attack. So if you think about wanting to be vulnerable, why would we want to open ourselves up to be attacked by someone? And we do it, and we think we're doing it for the right reasons. And so I changed that concept of not being vulnerable, but I challenge clients to be transparent, to be open and honest with others about their experience, but not open to being attacked by someone because they're sharing part of themselves.
I love that. And that reminded me myself being a wordsmith, looking up the word vulnerable. But you're right, you hear it. So therefore, what that says to me is people aren't really understanding. So if you say vulnerable, we talk about the energy of words. Does your energy rise or does it deplete? And actually, when you hear vulnerable, it does deplete. You're right. I would prefer to say being open and honest, but actually transparency comes into that. It's just being clear and letting people see you in the raw and real state, as I say. So I love that. I'm not going to use that word again when I ask someone. I'm going to use open and honest, because when I do a values exercise, I have integrity built on open, honest, and what's the third one? Always a triple. A something in true and open heart, something like that. Honest, true, and open heart. That's what I say. So maybe these are the words that would be used, but transparency is a really good one as well. But I think with vulnerability, I don't know what you think about this, Dr. D, is that I feel we need to be brave to show the wounds. If they're no longer open wounds, they might be scars that heal over. I have a little scar, I don't know if you can see, on my little finger that I did when I was a 2-year-old.
I have one too, on my pinky, from when I was a little girl.
So this happened as a 2-year-old, and I could actually see this happening to me. It must have scarred me so much in the imprint of my life, you know. And it was you know, do you know the brand Heinz?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was Heinz tomato soup, and it was an old can. I was a child sitting playing in this puddle, and I got the can, and there was glass or something in it, and it just I cut the finger on it, you know. So my brother got into serious trouble from my mother, because in Scotland they call the baby the Wayne. It's a Scottish word for the youngest member of the family, you know. So yeah, so it always reminds me of that. But so how do you feel about sharing wounds, scars, whatever word you use to describe it? How do you feel? Where does that bravery come from?
Where does the bravery come from? That is a great question. I am not really sure how to answer that, but I do know that time is a key element to being able to share your wounds. Because if you open up too soon and you start talking about what's hurting you, you know, you might be digging a little deeper, and it's not time yet to talk about that. And so you might go to another part of your life that's still painful, and you may not know how to cope with the new feelings that rise up when you're talking about your pain too soon, your wounds too soon. So I think time is, it's important to keep in mind, like, am I ready to talk about this? And also for the person that we're sharing our wounds with, and we're talking about that, is knowing, are they ready to hear it? Because we can trigger them as well, sharing our own scars and our own pain that, you know, we've healed from maybe. But if we're sharing it with someone who's not quite ready to heal, that can be more triggering for them.
It's certainly something you've got to be aware of as a publisher and in the media, you know. So in our books, if we are talking about certain topics, we will put in the imprint that, you know, there'll be like a warning. This may trigger, because they're talking about, and they'll give the subject. It could be suicide, it could be abuse, it could be whatever might be triggering for people. So I know certainly as a publisher, we will put it in our books, and certainly in a lot of TV programs now, they'll say this episode might upset a number of viewers, you know, so they give you the warning, so you can choose, will I watch it or will I not watch it, you know, because sometimes you're right. There's one of the soaps here in the UK just now, they're showing abuse, coercive abuse and things, and I actually find it, I can watch a little bit of it, but if it's too much, I get uncomfortable, and I'm thinking, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
You know, because even though you think you're healed, and you know, for the best part I am, but that sometimes there's things that just that ooze out, you know, every now and again. So you do have to be careful. So in terms of, before we move on to Voices of Women, to get to know you a bit more in the work that you do, you talk about toxicity. Can you give us some light on what that means for you within your work?
Yeah, so one of my key phrases that I tell all my clients, you know, I will call out their toxic behaviors. I'll call out toxicity in whatever relationship that they're in. And the reason why is a lot of times we are going through things that are hurtful and we're harming ourselves in the process as well. And no one is telling us that we're doing it. And, you know, I look back at part of my life where I was doing some really dumb stuff, right? And I look back now, I'm like, why didn't anybody say anything? Why did my friends let me do that? Why did my family not stop me? You know, and we have this mindset of, you know, if you're an adult, like, oh, you fall and you make your mistakes and you have to deal with it on your own. But I don't agree with that. I think that's why we have to have connections and healthy connections, because those connections are going to keep us safe when we don't know how to keep ourselves safe.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's really good to have people around you that will tell you something's toxic or it's not right for you. And I suppose if I look back, you know, my parents and all sorts of things, but it's amazing the things that keep you in a toxic relationship. So it could be children, it could be religion, it could be culture. It could be financial. There's so many elements that you actually know deep down that you shouldn't be there, and you tell yourself so many lies. You try to convince yourself, and actually, you know, I'm sure you do this, and it's amazing. And I would definitely want to know more about your work myself, because I think you need someone to call you out and make you face your truth and speak with a voice of truth, and a one that's respected and listened to, so that when you reflect back their behaviors and what it actually means in reality, I think you definitely can. I don't know if this is the right word. I'm sure you'll call me out with this as well. You can maybe save someone from themselves in that situation by opening a door of opportunities, I call it. I don't know if opportunity is the right one, but it can open a door that can allow them to maybe escape. Because I tell you, from my experience, you always think outside of what you're living, it's not safe and you couldn't survive. But actually, trying to survive within is worse, because outside it is so different and you can do it. And that's when you say to yourself, why did I stay so long? Because it wasn't as hard as the picture I was painting. I don't know what you would want to add to that.
Yeah, I was thinking about, you know, why we stay in toxic relationships and why we don't call out our own toxicity. And I think a lot of times we are stuck because there's this sense of hope, like hope that it's going to change, hope that, you know, it's not going to last forever, or we have glimpse of hope where it's not always bad. So we minimize the bad parts, right? But the other piece of that is we stay in toxic relationships and in toxic behaviors ourselves, and we're not being called out by others because a lot of times we're suffering in silence. So part of the toxicity is we don't talk about it. And because we're not talking about our experience and how much pain we're in, no one else knows, and they don't know how to help us, or they don't know how, you know, when we want their help. right? So we have to be open to saying, hey, please help me. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck.
And that's a lot of courage right there,
Mhm.
to
That
be
takes
able
bravery.
to be able to do that, because you could have these, and and when you talk to women and you hear their stories, they do have a realization that they actually imprisoned themselves. So that kind of leads me on to voices of women. So the word voice for me means truth, speaking your
Mm.
truth with love and compassion and respect. What does the word voice mean for you?
When I think of voice, I think of power, right? It just, the sound of voice, I won't say it's manipulative, but it can control atmospheres. So there can be, the tone of voice changes everything, right? The words that we use, the power behind the voice. It tells a lot about someone's intentions, and it tells a lot about someone's vulnerability, because
Yeah.
that's there in those moments, right? Are we scared? Are we afraid to open up? Are we feeling brave? So like our voice says a lot about who we are and where we are in the moment. It's kind of like
Yeah.
when we say the eyes are the window to the soul. The voice is, I think it's a window to, I don't know what to call it, but it's a window to something, but it does say a lot.
Um, oh no, that's right. I was going to say, I was actually, writing is the painting of the voice, if you want to switch it that way around. So speaking's the same. It's a painting. We can paint pictures with our voice, and we
Mm,
can visually say 1,000 words with a picture. So either way, we have these means of getting our voice, what's within us, what we believe in, whether it's art, whether it's speaking on a stage, it's poetry, it's a book, whatever means. Um, and having your voice suppressed is something that really I'm so passionate about. And I suppose it's because as a child I was often told to shut up. So have you got a little anecdote there about why voice is important for you?
Man, I look back, when I was younger, everyone thought I was shy because I was quiet, but I was really just very observant. I was watching people all the time. I was watching interactions. And when I went to college, I went away. And when I came back, and I was more outspoken, I had ideas to share, right? And so people were like, wow, look at you, you just blossomed. And I'm like, I am who I am. I didn't change. I just started using my voice, right? The voice was always there. I just chose not to speak up because I didn't feel like I needed to. But I also recognize, because I was always the quiet one, when I did speak, everyone listened.
There's something about that, isn't there? You know, you get these great leaders and they just sit there and they nod and they're watching, and
Yeah.
then they're asked an opinion, and then what comes out their mouth is like, wow, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not always, people who want to speak are loudest. It's the
Mhm.
words have got more power in them than you mentioned, like tonality, um, and volume of the voice. Sometimes a lower voice has got something in it that makes you
That's something
speak.
too.
Yeah. And, got to slow down for sure. So, voices of women, what made you say yes to being part of this project?
I think the time that we're in, women's voices are being silenced or trying to be silenced. And I think it's time for us to speak up and rise against that movement. And I think women are beautiful and we have such powerful stories and we have so much strength. Um, and one of the scriptures that I live by is Esther 4:14, where it talks about for such a time as this. And knowing the story of Esther, where she had to use her voice to save her people. And if she didn't, her people would have perished. So
Yeah.
I embody that. And I feel like this is my time in history to use my voice to empower single moms around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And same for me. It's about women empowerment, and particularly looking at leadership, because I believe we're all leaders. Some
Mhm.
people choose to step into those leadership shoes. Some people are more reserved. But the reason I say we're all leaders, we lead a life. Now, some people lead a life better than others, not that I
Yeah.
like judging, but you know what I mean? Some people make better decisions than others. Just
Mhm.
like we've got great leaders and we've got other leaders that we think, oh my God, why are they a leader? You know? So for me, the voices of women looking around leadership is looking for those beacons of light, those beacons of brilliance, I call it, bringing out that brilliance, because the more light we can fuel into the world, the more other women will see us, will want to be with us, they'll resonate. We've all got a different voice, we've all got a different message. So, everybody, if we get the opportunity to speak out, you will find your tribe, you will find the women who want
Right.
to come and be part of your tribe, who want to follow you, and in fact, they aspire to lead like you. Not be you, but to lead like you, in terms of you might be more compassionate, or you might oh God, I can't get my words out now. More compassionate, more understanding, more resilient, whatever those traits are that you embody, that you show to the world, in your brilliance, then that's what attracts people to it. And like you, I believe it's time. There's so many cultures and so many parts of the world where women can't speak out. They're
Mm.
silenced. And I say no more to that. Because if anybody tells me to shh, you can guess what happens. I ain't shushing for anybody.
I love it.
I remember I was on a cruise. Can we tell a wee funny story? I'm on a cruise. So I've paid my thousands of dollars to be on that cruise. And I'm listening to someone playing maybe a guitar or a cello or something like that. Now, you're in a very it was a mall. It's like a mall. I think it was a Royal Caribbean cruise I was on. And so there's people walking by, people are talking all over the place. And I'm sitting, and I literally turned around and went, they're amazing, aren't they?
Mm.
Literally a very positive comment, not in a loud voice, in quite a quiet voice. This woman turned around and went to me, shh. I thought, why did she pick on me? There's a whole ship full of people making noise. And I thought, it really got my back up, as a phrase that they say here in the UK. And I thought, wow. But obviously, it wasn't the place for me to be louder because I was listening to the music. But I kind of looked at her and I thought, if looks could, like, you know, I found it quite. I found it quite interesting that an adult in a place like that could tell somebody to be quiet. I would never
Mm.
dream of doing that. It's different if if it was like the sound of silence and somebody started doing something, then I could understand. But
Yeah.
that wasn't the environment. But I found it quite, I laughed at the end of the day, but it did kind of think, who are you? Don't tell me, shush. So have you ever been told to be quiet?
There's not a point that comes to mind where that's happened. But I remember in workspaces, I am the person that actually, I have been told to be quiet because I'm the person that always says what everyone else is thinking and they don't want to say it because I'm just bold and honest, right? I'm just never sugarcoated, right? I'm gonna tell you how it is. And I'm asking those tough questions in settings where the person doesn't want to be challenged, but they need to be challenged. And I'm that person that challenges people to think about what they're saying and why they're saying it and what do they mean. And I do remember, there's been some other coworkers that were not brave enough to speak up themselves. And they'd be like, stop, like tapping me on the side, what are you doing? But in the end, they were grateful that I did speak up because then change happened.
Exactly. It's all about that open and honest, and that's what Voices of Women are about. It's about that integrity, open and honest, but coming from that place of encouragement, of empowerment, of, leadership, of wanting people to see what's possible. We
Mhm.
are women that's come from, I came from a very poor background. And when I look at where I am today, everything is possible for each of us if only we find that why, commit to it, and take the bold action.
Yeah.
So what's your philosophy around that kind of thing? Where, like I just said, it's about bold action, it's about finding a why. What do you believe is the essence of you and your leadership?
I know I learned my purpose very early on because I was taught to seek it. I don't think everyone has that mindset to find your purpose. And so we just walk around like looking for the next thing without intention. And so because of my faith, my purpose in God and knowing that I was created to do something for this world, to take action, I found that very early. Like I was 13 when I knew I was supposed to be a counselor. I didn't know what that was exactly, but I knew I needed to help people by talking. So,
Well,
and
there
listen,
you go. There you
so
go.
here I am. So yeah, I think that I live by purpose and I live by intention. And, I don't always stay with the intentions I set because I think your intentions can pivot. And I think
Yep.
sometimes we get stuck in like, I decided to do this one thing. And when it needs to change, we kind of bump heads with ourselves because we're not ready to move into the next thing, even though we're being called into another direction. And so we have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, wow. What a great little chat we've had here,
Yeah.
conversation. And I've loved it. And there's just so much I'd like to get in deeper. So it's about taking one thing and going deep, deep, deep. The 5 whys, why, why. The childlike curiosity. But
That's
why
my
did you do that? But
question.
why?
Why?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to give you the last word. So what would you say to younger women who maybe doubt themselves and don't believe they're a leader? How would you encourage them to step into those leadership shoes?
I would tell any young girl to find her voice and find it early and not to be afraid to use it, no matter what anyone else is telling you. Like if you're being shushed, know that, maybe there's a time for you to use your voice and recognizing when you're supposed to use your voice. But know that even if you're not speaking, your voice still lives inside of you. And so you have to know when it's your time. So again, with what I live by for such a time as this. So know when it's your time.
Mm, fantastic. Thank you very much, Dr. D. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm sure we'll have other conversations at other points in our journey together. So, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this beautiful revelation today and the voice of Dr. D. And remember, always use your voice, speak up for what's right, for what you believe in, and speak up for the truth that is aligned with your values. But most of all, speak from a place of love. So, this is Brenda saying, be brilliant. Much love. Until the next time. Toodle pip.
That's it for this episode of Brilliance Today. Thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. For more information or to contact Book Brilliance Publishing, visit bookbrilliancepublishing.com. And remember, do different. Be brilliant.